Welcome everybody to the Steering Committee monthly meeting number 8. During these steering committee meetings, we go over the projects list as well as GitHub discussions, have open discussions, and do a general recap of all things that are happening in the various special interest groups and working groups. Usually Anil walks us through the agenda, and I think he will continue to do so today. I know that Anil's been feeling very sick. Just generally, and there's been a lot of work that's been happening across the community and with the core team as we prep for the mainnet 6 upgrade that's happening tomorrow. I'm going to throw a countdown for the block height in the chat for everybody. But again, there's documentation available as well as a number of announcements that have been shared in Discord and other channels for folks to stay up to date on all things related to the mainnet 6 upgrade. There was also a 6 support meeting that just ended where, again, Artur and some other folks from the core team talked about the mainnet upgrade and some other issues that will be high priority after the mainnet 6 upgrade has completed. But again, if you want to track any of those other conversations in any of the SIGs or working groups, feel free to look at the README files attached to the respective SIG or working group, where you can see notes, transcript, and find recordings on some of those meetings. Without further ado, I'll hand it over to Anil to get us kicked off with the typical agenda for the steering committee. I'll take notes in the background.
Thanks, Tyler. Hey, everyone. As Tyler said, I'm pretty sick, so I'm sorry about if my voice isn't coming super clear. And if it's not clear at some point, just let me know. We can probably have Tyler do this instead of me. Yeah, let's I'll go ahead and share my screen, and we can just walk through the agenda like we usually do. All right, cool. So once again, thanks for joining us. And I know we have a few new people on the call today. So for people that are joining us for the first time, just a quick recap or quick overview of what we do on these calls. The steering committee call is typically a once-a-month call where we go over the general sort of updates that are happening across the board, across all the SIGs and working groups at a high level. And then we also discuss any sort of issues or conflicts or things that need to be addressed from a community perspective. We review the list of projects that we have, and if needed, we prioritize, remove, or add any things on that list. We then go ahead and review some of the new discussions that have been posted to the GitHub discussions board since the last time we met here. And if possible, we review some of the comments there, discuss and potentially make decisions about whether we want to be supporting some of those things or need more information or outright doesn't make sense. And then last but not least, we open it up to any questions from anybody in the audience here. Before we get going on these items, I just want to check and see if anybody has any top of the mind things that they want to bring up before we get into it. Cool. Any sort of community feedback from the way things have been running in the SIGs and the work groups? Any sort of conflicts that we need to talk about that anybody can think of? Awesome. I'll take that as a no. Not that we have had any in the past. I'm going to move on to the next bullet, but if at any point somebody has any things they want to bring up, we'll have an opportunity to do that at the end of the call as well. So with that, we'll move on to looking at the list of projects. So here is the page that has the list of projects that are in progress right now. So top of the mind, obviously, is GPU support. So unless you've been living under a rock, you probably know that we have a mainnet upgrade scheduled for tomorrow. That's going to bring along with it a whole bunch of things, not just GPU support, but the big one among it is going to be obviously support for GPUs on Akash. So that's well underway. It's marked as beta, but soon it's going to be complete. Hopefully the mainnet upgrade should go well tomorrow. So that's the first item here. The second one is stable payments and settlement. So really this item honestly is multi-currency support, which is also included in this upgrade. So that code changes for that are already being tested and they're going to be part of this upgrade as well. And then the economics 2.0 proposal kind of fits in that same bucket, which is it's the one that introduces the idea of take rates in terms of being able to get a certain percentage of the fees that are paid on the network and put them into a community pool. So all three of these things are going to be part of that mainnet upgrade tomorrow. Any sort of questions on any of that from the community, or does anybody else on the call want to add any more context on anything that's going on in that? Cool, awesome. The only other thing I want to mention, sort of on that topic, is one of the things that we've been actively doing, which doesn't actually have a specific project associated with it, but we have been actively trying to generate demand from a tenant perspective. So, talking to a whole bunch of AI startups as well as independent developers building machine learning and AI algorithms, and seeing how they can utilize Akash. And regardless of whether they're Web3 developers or Web2 developers, trying to get them to use Akash. As we get to mainnet and we launch, we'll see if there is specific work groups that need to get spun out of any other effort to build specific features for these types of users. But for now, it's just an action and a activity that happens sort of in the background. On the other side of that equation, there's been a very concerted effort on the supply side of this to make sure that we have enough GPUs of different types available on mainnet when we launch. So one of the activities that has been going on, driven by the overclock team, but with a lot of support from the community, the Praetor team, and others, is sort of doing two things. One is making sure that most, if not all, of the providers that set up GPU clusters on the testnet, on the incentivized testnet, end up setting up a cluster on the mainnet as well. So, I know, Tyler, you've been involved a lot with that effort. And I think at this point, we have, I think most, if not all, of the testnet providers signed up to support and spin up providers on the mainnet, right, Tyler?
That is correct, yes.
Amazing. Awesome. Yeah. So we're looking really good from that perspective to have a decent number of GPU providers on mainnet right at the launch. And in addition to that, we have communications and conversations going on with 3 or 4 new data center operators who we are directly partnering with to bring the most high-end GPU models, including the H100s, the A100 80 gigabyte and the A100 40 gigabyte chipsets onto the network. So it's overall, I think it's coming through together really well in terms of a launch plan. And then there is a few things that I'll talk about when we get into the discussions area of this meeting as well that will add to the launch portion of it. Moving on down through the list, and please interrupt me at any point if there's other things to add in the things that we're talking about. Certification program, event planning, and Akash Hackathon. These are primarily things that are being driven by Adam Wozni. I think Adam Wozni is still out at Burning Man this week. I don't know, Tyler or anybody else on the call, if you're able to give an update on any of these items.
I can give a little bit of update
go ahead,
here.
Chang. Yep.
Hey, sorry, Tad. So as far as the certification program, that is temporarily on pause for the moment as we continue to focus our resources and attention elsewhere within the community, particularly around events planning and, of course, the hackathon, I think, which is well underway as far as signups go.
Awesome. And I know I've had at least a couple of folks hit me up, and we're meeting with one of the teams that is working on some kind of an ML deployment tool. And actually, this team was on the last call in the last client SIG, I think, talking about it as well. This is the Agora Labs team, and so we're meeting with them next week to see kind of an early version of where they're going with their hackathon idea. So thanks, Cheng. Appreciate that update. Dockside migration, I believe this is at the stage where it's getting ready to get pushed to some sort of publishing location, right, Tyler?
Yes, there was a SIG documentation meeting last week where Luna and Andre worked on next steps for the handoff so that, again, Docs 2.0 can start to be reviewed by folks in the Insider and Vanguard's community. That will start to happen after the mainnet upgrade. So there'll be more announcements to follow soon. And I know that there's some other folks that are interested in supporting documentation, some other items with the website. So there'll be further conversation around that after the mainnet upgrade.
Cool. Very nice. Thanks to Luna and team for all the work they've done on this. Go ahead, Tyler.
Absolutely. I just want to make a quick call out about the events and hackathon as well. I know that the next events coming up are going to be Masari Mainnet, and then obviously Cosmoverse is coming up shortly. There's some folks on this call, I believe, that are going to be participating in those events along with members of the core team. So again, look out for announcements and then feedback from those events happening soon. And then we are amidst the Akash Hackathon. I know there's also some folks on the call here. So there's been some workshops that have been happening in partnership with DoorHacks. If you want to continue to track those workshops, I believe the next one is September 4th next week. But again, there's been 3 workshops out, and all the information can be found on DoorHacks. And then again, announcements can also be found in Discord related to the hackathon. So again, we're in the midst of it, and I think a lot of teams are coming together and continuing to work on projects for the hackathon.
Thanks, Tyler. Appreciate that additional context. On the documentation item here, the other thing I think is worth mentioning is, so this doc site migration is primarily something that's being driven, or this item specifically something that was led initially driven by the Luna and Quasark team. And the intention here was to take the existing content that exists on the existing doc site, reformat it in a way that is more appealing to developers, and improve the look and feel of it as well, and launch it on potentially a new platform. Outside of that, we also have an effort, and this is, I think at this point, primarily driven by the Overclock core team, Scott characters as well as Arthur on our side. And this effort is basically to focus primarily on development contribution documentation. So one of the challenges we have had is we have had a lot of success with people contributing on the client side, but not to the same level when it comes to the core product, so meaning on the Go side, Golang development side. So one of the things that we're going to look at post mainnet upgrade is bringing in really good documentation for people to be able to get started on contributing within the Go code base as well. We still have to figure out where the documentation exactly is going to live. It might be a combination of the GitHub READMEs, MD files there, as well as the doc site. So something to figure out. Awesome. The next one on this is on-chain analytics. I think we've talked about this at length in the past. In the last steering committee, correct me if I'm wrong, Tyler, but I think that we communicate the decision that for now we're going to basically adopt CloudMose's indexer as the default for our analytics needs, given that CloudMose is now merged with Overclock Labs. And Max and team, both of them actually, have been working on a whole set of things that they need to do post mainnet upgrade to make sure any of the changes that have happened in terms of the manifests and APIs that have changed as a result of the mainnet upgrade, those are taken care of in not just the deployment tool, but also the indexer. So thank you so much, CloudMose team, for staying on top of that as well. So hopefully, there might be a slight hiccup post mainnet upgrade for a few days with the indexer data, but that should be resolved in a few days. I don't know if there's anything else you would like to add, Max, or anybody from the CloudMose team.
Hey guys, not much. I think you've said it all. We're working very hard to be up to date with the mainnet tomorrow and have as low downtime as possible.
Thank you so much, guys. All right, moving on. Provider attributes. This one, we talked about this, I think, during the provider, I want to say the provider SIG. I don't think we talked about it in the last steering committee, but the CloudMose team has done work on this side as well. So one of the things they did pretty much the same week as when the merger was announced is they put out an update to CloudMost deploy tool, where if you go in with your provider wallet, you can now edit attributes in CloudMost deploy. And the intention with this, again, is not to become a provider management tool like Praetor. That's a completely different use case. The primary objectives here were to be able to test what sort of keys and values work for provider attributes, and offer providers an easy way to be able to change them within the UI. So that's implemented, and again, thanks so much, CloudMost team, for doing that as well. The next one here is authorized spend management. So there is a spec for this. If you haven't looked at it, it's linked right here. But essentially, this is the spec for being able to delegate funds to somebody else to use for deployments. So the ultimate use case for this is like you have with traditional clouds. When you go and sign up at GCP or AWS or one of these services, you typically, if you're a brand new user, you get $100 or $300 or something to use on cloud credits. What we ultimately want to get to is a user experience that is similar to that. Right now, it's sort of, I would say, halfway there, where you can delegate funds using CloudMost, and you can use funds delegated to your wallet when you deploy. There's a few challenges with it. One is for the person that is delegating the funds. So, for example, if it's the finance team on the overclock side, or marketing team, running a campaign or something, there is limited or no visibility into, who the funds have been delegated to from the UI. There's no management of, all the wallets that are there, as well as information about how those funds are being utilized, like how much of it has been utilized, like who has actually utilized the funds potentially to deploy stuff, right? And then the other challenge with authorized spend has been that in order for you to delegate AKT to someone, they need to have a little amount of AKT already in their wallet in order to receive the AKT, because they've got to pay for gas fees. So solving that problem is one thing. And Maxi on the CloudMost team has been tackling both of these issues as documented in the spec. And I believe either has already an update out there or is going to have an update pretty soon. I don't know if Maxi is on the call and can provide us any more information. Maybe not. But yeah, I think we're pretty close to having a push to CloudMost that will support more features. Go ahead, Max.
I don't think Maxi's in the call, but the changes for the Audzi are mostly done. We just we're waiting for the Akash.js changes to release the new version, and from there should have all the new features for Audzi.
Amazing. Yeah, so this is super exciting, and I think Cheng and the marketing team will really appreciate this when it's out there, because it's been a pain point. Like in the past, when we have done, for example, the Kava campaign, managing the wallets and doing it all had to be done for the command line, and there was no way to visualize it. And then, of course, removing that friction of having to have people have certain amount of AKT already would go a long way in driving adoption as well. So thank you for doing that. And since you mentioned Akash.js in that context, I guess I don't have a specific item here. I guess we can talk about it in the client library, so I'll hold up for that. So that's authorized spend. Any questions so far on any of the topics? And I'm going pretty fast through the list. Let's pause here for a second, see if there's any questions.
Andrew from the chat had a question when you were talking about supply of GPUs and some of those data center relationships. He was talking about, asked a question, approximate number of A100s and H100s going to have on launch.
Yeah, great question. So it's a bit of a chicken and egg problem, as you can imagine. On the one hand, we would like to have an infinite amount of supply, but on the second hand, we don't want to commit to a whole lot of funds for that as well. So we're taking sort of a cautious approach where we're committing to a small amount initially to start with, and we're also, and maybe Cheng can talk about this a little bit as well in the context of marketing. We're also going to be working on a demand gen page for attracting developers. And so what we're going to do is we're going to have a limited amount of A100s and H100s. It might be, I would say somewhere around the in the tens of order of tens, not hundreds, and that'll be enough for us to be able to seed any demand that comes through. And then as we see the demand coming through, we'll be able to go and get more chipsets from these relationships that we have. The important thing that we're doing is we're forming relationships with multiple data center companies that have these chipsets available. And another portion of this is, and it's both a good thing and a bad thing, many of these data center companies themselves have a little bit of a lead time in terms of securing these chips and setting up the clusters with them. So for example, if you want a 8 or a 16 cluster H100s of H100s today, and you go tell one of these data center companies, I want an 8x cluster, they'll probably tell you it's going to take you a month and a half before they can have that for you. So in a way, it's a bad thing, but it's also a good thing for us because it means that we can sort of look at what the demand is going to be once we launch and then go ahead and request them. But yeah, hopefully that answers your question, Andrew. If there's any other follow-ups.
To add more light to what Anil just said, the approach we're taking is more cautious and more measured instead of going guns out. Hey, we have, all the A100s in a pipeline. We have thousands of A100s in the pipeline or access to them, right? Instead of like putting all those supply on Akash and not having demand catch up to the supply and essentially having heavy underutilization. Remember, these chips are extremely high demand, right? So instead of having heavy underutilization, we are ramping up the supply based on utilization, right? So that's not going to prevent anybody from listing on Akash, but considering there are no online incentives in the sense like, hey, you only get paid if there is a demand for your application. There is no on-chain incentives yet. And that was on purpose, right? We decided to work on implementation of incentives post GPU launch and not pre-GPU launch because we don't want to go the same way what happened to Helium or Filecoin, right? These are failed incentive models. So ramping up the supply in proportion to the demand with an acceptable level of utilization is the strategy we're going. And so what that means is, yes, it's going to be like tens, maybe hundreds in the first quarter till Q4, and it could be somewhere in the mid hundreds in Q1 and thousands in Q2. So this is going to be like a very good ramp up. Although we have enormous qualified demand in the sense people, being in testnet, people were able to experience the product. People said people like the way the product functions, but there's no way to guarantee unless they use a mainnet, right? So no way to guarantee that, hey, this user is going to come use the product without a mainnet launch. So it's a very delicate balance, and balance need to be maintained with precision in order to be successful. So to answer your question, yeah, it's going to be like tens, may not be hundreds, at least till maybe hundreds by end of the year or at least next quarter, but it's going to be a slow ramp up based on demand.
Cool. Thank you for the additional context, Greg. It's really helpful. And by the way,
shared on public. I mean, Akash, everything about Akash is public.
Yeah.
You can go to CloudMoss and see how many GPUs there are. I don't think it's going to be any hidden aspects of Akash ever. This meeting, as we speak, is recorded and published on Arweave, the notes of which will be transcribed and easily Googleable. And summaries of what I just said will be also available on GitHub if you want to go back and reference. So every aspect of Akash is public, including what we just talked about.
Yep, 100%. And just to throw an additional piece of context, Andrew, is I don't know if you follow the announcements from the public cloud providers, but I believe even GCP, Google Cloud, doesn't have H100s at this point. And I don't think they've announced like a specific date when they will. So And they're
Nobody
doing
has
extra.
H100.
Yeah. So just having even a few would go a long way in terms of being able to, position as well. And I see Logan nodding his head as well. Awesome. The next one here is content moderate. Oh, sorry. I think Andrew, you had a hand up, right? Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. So about my last question. So what I meant is like, will this be like, for example, or like right on Twitter, for example, we are increasing or we are securing like tens or hundreds more of H100 GPUs from this data center or from that data center, just so like the community know where are they coming for, like not just like they're just releasing, on the marketplace, but that, hey guys, like tomorrow we're going to have more like H100 GPUs. If you want it, it's going to be from Slovenia or Germany data center, yada, 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 something like that. Like
Yeah,
that.
most likely we'll be talking about our providers like we normally do, right? We probably will, do spaces and do events to introduce the providers to the community, right? So, are we going to announce? I mean, depending on the provider and depending on the context and size. Yeah, I mean, it's probably going to be some definite content push out there.
Got it. Thanks.
Not really doubt.
Yeah, and that's a really good question. Sorry, go ahead, Greg.
And as you can guess, I'm pretty active on my Twitter. A little too active than I should be. So you can expect some announcements.
Nice. Yeah, and Andrew, that's a really good question. One of the things that I and Boz and a few of us are really interested in is actually forming closer relationships with a lot of these GPU data center companies and probing for whether there is a potential for us being, some sort of a distribution channel for them, right? And if there's sort of incentives that they can offer us for doing that, and so that's something that we're pursuing actively with multiple providers. And if something like that would work out, then it'll probably naturally lend itself to us talking about these providers publicly and potentially like putting them on a website and stuff like that as well. If that makes sense.
Yep. Thank you.
Awesome. All right. If there's no other questions on all of that stuff, one more hand. Andrew Mello, go ahead.
Hey there. I see we were on content moderation there. So I did just have a note that I wanted to mention with the group here since we have everyone on the call. I have been running some of the largest providers on the network now for some of the longest time, and I am now starting to come into issues with DMCA complaints and other basically mischievous usage of my providers that, again, this now has become an actual issue for me because I have 6 DMCA complaints against one ISP in particular. So this has caused me to now escalate this need to do content moderation and what that actually means in totality. So what that means in totality is, first of all, defining what we're moderating. And as most providers and hosting companies do, that's defined through a terms of service and an acceptable use policy. So to get that going, as I said, I am in urgent response mode now, not waiting around for it to happen, but it has happened. I need to do something about it mode. I've gone ahead and created a terms of service and also acceptable use policy. I put that on my status pages of my providers so that they're publicly available for anyone that was to deploy on my providers. And then I additionally posted those into the Akash Insiders channel just a couple of days ago. Additionally, we do have a GitHub for this. Provider Chaperone was the name of the GitHub that we're going to publish, some of this code under. But I am now ready to publish the code that I am using to actively basically enforce the acceptable use policy. So, again, without enforcement, without a tool running on the cluster to monitor for torrents, magnets, ebooks, all the kind of things, that are going to get you DMCA complaints or worse, That's kind of now, again, like I said, I wanted to give everyone an update because it's been moved from kind of just sitting on the back burner to this problem needs to be solved now. And as we continue to grow, this problem will besiege, all providers at some time or another. So I want to be very transparent, publish as much as I can around this, and I will go more in depth on our next content moderation working group. But just wanted to raise the, raise some attention to that this is now something that, needs to be solved for, and I am looking to publish and help document along the way.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think it's important to create a project now for that and start tracking as a project the progress on this effort. It's a good point that you brought up, Andrew. It's been on top of my mind and a lot of the community members' mind as well. Yeah, let's do a more formal tracking of this initiative.
Hey, Andrew and Greg. So just to be clear, Andrew, and I don't know if you have joined any of these meetings, and I don't know if you're seeing the screen right now, and we were actually just going to jump into content moderation, but we have had a working group for content moderation for a while now, formed in December, and we have had a few meetings on them. And there's specs for specifically, what we want to achieve with content moderation, and 2 APIs defined as well. I believe at one of these meetings, one of the action items there was for Adam Bozanich to create a repository for you to check in the code that you had shown us at one of these points. I think we may have lost track of that at some point, and I don't know if that repository ever got created. I will go and check if that repository got created, and if it didn't, I'll create it, or I'll ask somebody to create it for you so you can check in your code. But
Great, thank you. Yep.
Yeah, thanks for bringing it up. But just to be clear to everyone, it's not like we have ignored content moderation. We have had a working group on this. It's actually one of the first working groups we formed, if not the first working group we formed as soon as we decided to go to this community model. I mean, you can see right here, December 22nd is when the first meeting happened. Yeah, we have defined the specs, and the goal here was the Plato team was going to work on one portion of these APIs. Obviously, the Plato team has been extremely busy supporting all sorts of other things since then. But the intention is for them to switch back to working on which was it? The moderation API, I believe, is what they were going to work on as soon as the main grid is done. Point taken, Andrew. We will continue to push steam on this. And literally, I was just telling Greg last week, I think that we're going to put gas on this the moment we get main upgrade done.
Just my last point there is really that, again, through this process, I learned what was missing, and what we missed in our SIG there was the terms of service accessible use policy. And I think we kind of need to get to a point where we provide some kind of template or boilerplate to providers. Again, that's kind of the discovery here. So again, we'll get into it on the next one, but just wanted to bring that up that, I'm giving it extra special attention because it is now an actual problem. Yeah.
Awesome. Andrew, I appreciate that. And Jigar, I just want to make one point before I hand it to you. Andrew, so you mentioned that after you created this term of service, you shared what you did on the Insiders channel. Can I ask that when you have such things to share, by all means share them on Discord, but also please create a pull request in this repository, or if it's for something else, create a pull request in it so it actually gets a formal review and it's in there and it's not lost in the stream of data that flows through Discord all the time.
Okay.
Yeah. So please create a pull request for just create an MD file here. If it's a spec, if it's a code change somewhere, then we can figure out which if we need to create new repository for it. But if it's a spec or a terms of service or something that you want to call out, please create a pull request for this and open it up so a few of us can review it. The community can be aware of what's going on.
Great. Well, yep. I'll put the templates in there, and we can just use that to work from. As I said, though, it's gotten to the point where there has to be something in writing, and there has to be accountability for things because an ISP cutting me off for DMCA complaints is not an acceptable use issue. So
yep.
We're going to deal with it. Yep.
Not arguing with you on that at all. Thanks so much. Hey, go ahead, Jigar. Sorry.
Yeah, just wanted to reiterate. We have started working on it. It's just because we were very busy with the GPU testnet and ready for upgrades. And then after the upgrades, obviously we're gonna go back, and that's our number one priority.
Awesome. Thank you, Jigar. Cool. I guess that covers content moderation. Any other questions or things people want to bring up? Okay, then moving on to the next one here is client libraries. Mainly, I want to talk about two things on this one. One is last time we talked about Akash.js and how we want to use Akash.js as the place where we document and keep basically the common set of features and functions between CloudMos and console. Since then, I have gone ahead and created this table that calls out, specifically the areas of commonality between the two products, regardless of whether they serve Web3 or Web2 users, and where we can basically choose a specific implementation between the two products and abstract it out to Akash.js so that it's utilizable by both the clients without having to rewrite the code or write custom implementations. And it's also available to anybody else that wants to build similar clients. So a lot of the effort for this is actively going. I know Max C has code changes right now in Akash.js. So if you actually go to, let's see, GitHub, Akash.js, you can probably see there's been pull requests from Joseph as of a few minutes ago, updating it to support the new Beta 3 API, and then Maxi made changes to fix issues in persistent storage as well as IP leases, just last week. So basically, what we're doing here, as you can see, is we are abstracting out features that are common to both the clients into Akash.js as libraries that can be utilized by any other clients. And then CloudMos is adopting, that common implementation if they have a custom implementation right now, and making sure that none of this breaks any of the existing functionality. So thank you again, CloudMos team and Joe, for all the work on this. Any questions on Akash.js and what we're doing here on the client libraries front? Okay, take that as a no. The other thing on client libraries was I was wanting to get an update on what is going on with the Java or Go libraries, if anybody has any, Luna in team or anybody else. I don't think I see Luna on the call.
I know Luna was on the call. I know that at the last SIG clients meeting where I think Greg was on there was some discussion about the Go client library being the priority. I know that Artur and Luna have previously been talking closely about Go client library and a solution. I think with the mainnet pending, that discussion has been pushed to the side until after mainnet. But I know that, again, Go is highest priority for folks, and then Java secondarily. So I think there will be continued conversations after mainnet between Artur, Luna, and other team members that want to talk about the Go client library.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Thank you, Tyler. Awesome. And I think all of these other items, there's no active work going on right now, to the best of my knowledge. So I don't think we should spend the time going through each one of these. Are there things that are not on this list that you were expecting to talk about? Anybody from the call? Can you think of anything else that is being worked on within the SIGs or work groups that is not documented in this table? Okay, I'll take that as a no and move on to the next topic on the agenda, which is reviewing all the GitHub discussions that have come up since the last time we met as a group here. So just going down here and just looking at the dates when these were submitted. So I think June 20, probably start with these ones here. So the first one here is bringing MetaMask to Akash via the Cosmos Snap. I reviewed this one yesterday. I know I've been pretty late to getting to this one. All the questions that I had, I think, were already asked in this. So this sounded really good to me. And it's also pretty well written. So John, I think you're on the call. Thanks for doing such a good job of writing this up. And I think this, when I think about proposals that I feel like we should prioritize, I basically boil it down to two things in my head. If you look at where we are in terms of the network today, our primary objectives obviously should be to drive demand and ideally drive demand from AI developers, given how much attention that is receiving now, and given that the AI workloads generally tend to have lower 5.9 requirements compared to traditional web services. So like driving demand from AI devs is kind of the number one. And then second, and more broadly, driving more demand from all sorts of users, right? And then the second is, of course, making sure there's enough supply and creating incentives for providers to have supply. So any proposals that I see that try to achieve one or both of those objectives automatically like are winners in my mind. And this definitely is hitting the first one pretty hard. So that's kind of my take on it, at least. I just want to kind of see if anybody else has any thoughts or opinions on this that they want to share. Go ahead, Andrew.
Yeah, in terms of demand generation, I think that a particular branch that we have yet to explore is really our price advantage over traditional cloud providers, and exploring what that looks like in terms of again, it's a there's a certain subset of communities out there that are always focused on price and always looking for the cheapest compute at the best price. And so I would propose that we also include continuing efforts to reach out to communities and ecosystems that are price sensitive. And there are quite a few of them, and we bring a huge price advantage over a traditional container deployment or Kubernetes platform.
Thanks, Andrew. I really appreciate that perspective. But just to be clear, and I don't know if you're like on your phone and not seeing the screen, but we're specifically talking about the proposal to bring MetaMask support, MetaMask to Akash using the Cosmos Snap. So I was just mentioning that this definitely helps us drive demand. So what I'm asking, or what we're
sorry to miss that. Yep, I did not see the screen there. Sorry about that.
No worries. So yeah, just to go back and ask, does anybody else have any opinions about this that they would like to bring up in terms of a discussion so that John can help answer any questions? Julius, looks like you have a question. Go ahead.
Yeah, I can see what Julius just said. He said that is the Snap proposal connected with the announcement of Leave Wallet? No, so this is actually two different implementations. The one that we built at Mystic Labs is a much more holistic, it's meant to benefit the Cosmos ecosystem as a whole. Sorry about that. I'm getting notifications on here. It's meant to benefit the Cosmos ecosystem. It was built dynamic in nature to really support every chain and every coin type, with the sole purpose of funneling Ethereum users into the ecosystem. Leaps is more of, and I believe they just took something about the coin types thing that we built out, which is cool. I'm very excited for them doing that as well. But it's more so, theirs, I believe, is more so focused on improving the Leap wallet experience, while ours is giving Ethereum users a seamless method to access the Cosmos and really its highlights. And I do think that, Akash is something that has a unique, I was talking about this on a space the other day. I was like, what is really a unique driver for Cosmos? What is something that is unique in this ecosystem that is just not in Ethereum or in these other ecosystems? I think Akash is probably one of the biggest examples of that. And I think that, it should be right in their face. Hey, pop up a server right away using your MetaMask wallet. No strings attached. One of the easiest things you can do. And I think the main basis of this proposal is not just because we can already support Akash right away, but it won't be, the full experience. What this proposal aims to do is really, add notification support and really make it a simple and easy to use Akash experience. So, for example, say your server is running low on balance, you want to be able to get that notification in Wallet right away. So you're okay, I can top it up right away, if that makes any sense. I hope I answered your question instead of just rambling.
So I think it's important to add that about 20 million users on MetaMask that will be open and laying up to Akash. Right? I think that alone is an incredible injection. As I don't know how many of you know this, our biggest drop-off point when it comes to using Akash Network, the console is the step where folks need to install the wallet, because typically takes a good portion amount of time to to install a wallet, get some tokens from a Kraken or something. It takes 10 to 15 minutes, right? But if you have MetaMask enabled, any MetaMask user can essentially use Akash without that step. There are about 20 million users, and MetaMask also has swapping capability in wallet, which is advantageous to be able to get AKD tokens or USDC that's native. So I think there's a lot more benefits to this proposal than the gain is incredibly high, right? So I mean, I think this I completely support this proposal, and I think I would encourage community members to take a deeper look into it and really ask yourself what values brings to the ecosystem, and if it's obvious, I would highly encourage you to support as well.
Appreciate that very much. And I think there's actually another thing that's worth mentioning. It was just announced yesterday about AADAO funding the future RPCs of this. So the RPCs are now pretty much handled for the upcoming year, but there was two aspects of that I'd like to share that are very important. One of them is, a third of all IBC swaps revenue is going to the Atom community pool. But I think the more important part right away is we're actually adding this fee flexibility module, this gas fee flexibility module that we're going to build out. It's very similar to the fee abstraction module that people are implementing on the chain side. But what essentially it's going to do is allow people to pay gas in whatever token they want. And that is another barrier to entry that's being lowered. So now people are going to be able to pop up in a Akash server and pay their gas in Atom or whatever token they already have in their wallet. So now it's another piece that, okay, it's a less of a barrier for these Ethereum users because it is the wallet. Bottom line, you can ask anybody that is doing research in between why Ethereum users are not trying the Cosmos, not because the projects aren't great. We have some of the greatest tech, some of the greatest projects. They just don't want a new wallet. And also getting the actual Cosmos assets is a pain. Nobody wants to go to a separate website and bridge and connect all your different wallets. It's a poor user experience. The less steps to reach the goal, the better. So just figured it was worth mentioning that.
Awesome. Thank you, John, for walking through that again. And so I guess at this point, I haven't heard anything negative about this. So I feel like it's pretty good to move to the next stage of this. So, if you need any help with shepherding it next through, on our side, myself, Boz, Tyler, Cheng, happy to help you out with that. Cool. In the interest of time, I'm going to move on to the next discussion thing over here. Let's see. Which one do we do? I'm going to take this one next quickly. So this is a proposal by Human HQ, and I believe the person behind this is Piyush, who has been a very active contributor to the website recently, and I believe also built like a AI app for doing ChatGPT style stuff with Akash documentation. So amazing contributor. This proposal I think is super well written, very detailed, and has pretty much all the things that you'd expect to see in a proposal that's written. I reviewed it this morning and I put my comments in here. I don't know if other folks have had time to review it yet. I love this proposal overall. My only concern with this proposal is, again, just goes back to sort of what I look at when I think about proposals submitted at this stage of where the network is. I think about, primarily what is the objective? We're trying to drive demand, or we're trying to drive supply, or incentivize supply, or both, ideally. And while in theory a website does contribute to driving demand, the thing I wonder is, like, it's not like we don't have a website right now. The question is, do we want to spend this much money revamping the existing website? But if we think that revamping is going to significantly drive up demand for us, then it might make sense for us to spend it. And so that's kind of what my comment here was. I'm curious if there's other people that have thoughts about this.
So website is one of those multifaceted, vectors that can be easily quantified in terms of either driving demand, driving supply, where it is a center stone for all aspects. Now, if you look at, I think what this proposal is trying to address is the challenges to maintain the website and to update the website has been great, because the tech stack was very advanced, or not very advanced, but not very common, and and updating hasn't been the easiest, right? So I think what this proposal is going to do is it's going to make add new capabilities to the website that'll explore new areas, as well as make it easy to maintain. Judging by the depth of the proposal and judging by Piyush's and the team's prior work, I have pretty high confidence in the team that they can deliver the quality. I'm judging by his work as well. So the question now is, like, we have a very thorough, detailed proposal as to what they want to do. The benefits may not be quantifiably measured at this stage, because websites are very hard to quantifiably measure, but qualitative aspects we have high conviction on, in terms of maintainability, as well as brand, as well as a lot of other aspects of the website, right? So there's clear qualitative advantages for this effort. Even though it doesn't fit in a single bucket, I think it addresses so many aspects of Akash Network. It's important to have a maintainable website. That's my thesis, and I think anyone has to build it. This team is very capable of doing it. So I would support this proposal personally.
Good, Tyler.
I know we want to move on to a couple other proposals, but I do want to second what Greg has said. I know this group has been very responsive and has been very much available over the last month, has given a number of hours, and has put their money where their mouth is, and has delivered a great deal of work. Some of these pages are going to be brand new pages. I know that Greg did a great job of setting the tone with the website as it is today. But there are some pages that Greg didn't have the time to develop, because he was working on a number of other things as it pertains to the business. So whether it be the ecosystem page, making improvements to the token page, or even, again, adding brand new pages that make it easier for folks to understand what Akash is and then use Akash, is all part of the efforts from this team. And again, it's Piyush, and there's also 4 other members that are going to be focused on the website. He's got a team of 8 total that are very interested in Akash and working on a number of things. But as it pertains to the website, again, it's Piyush plus 4 folks. So I know we want to move on, but if anybody has any questions, comments, feel free to get involved in the working group Akash website Discord, or just respond to this proposal in GitHub discussions. And I know that Piyush can answer, and his team can answer any questions. Again, they follow the format of the open structure and been involved in meetings. And so whether it be like the next working group Akash website meeting, which is not going to be tomorrow, but the following week, or again in Discord, folks can be transparent and talk to them, because again, I think they're a really quality team that we should embrace in the community.
Sound good. Thanks, Greg, for that additional context. Yeah, and again, from my perspective, I just was asking this purely from a use of funds perspective, but no disagreement on the challenges we have on the current website. I've been personally involved in trying to update it a few times. Cool. Any other thoughts or questions from anyone on this proposal before we move to the next one? Let's see what else we got. I'll do this one and then I'll do the last one really quick. So this is a proposal I put out yesterday evening, late evening. So I don't expect everyone to have reviewed it already. But I did get one comment at least from Derek. I don't know if Derek's on the call. I'm going to check really quickly. I don't see him on the call, but he did ask some really good questions. I responded to them, really quickly right before this call, in the last few minutes, right before I was getting ready to get on the call. Haven't answered it fully, but I wanted to see if there's any other questions before we dig into these ones, since Derek is not on the call.
I just want to add a little more context to this proposal. I think this proposal is to demonstrate Akash is very capable of training a foundational model. The reason for that is you see quite a lot of conversations on Twitter and all over about the fact that decentralized networks cannot do training and are only meant for inference and fine-tuning, which is not rooted in reason, but I think it's simplifying the problem quite a lot. The effectiveness of training is proportional to the density and quality of compute and the latency of that compute, right? Akash is a general purpose compute network, and a key feature of which is hyper granular attribute selection, right? So by demonstrating this granularity in filtering for the right type of resource and giving the general purpose capability, you can actually do a foundation model from scratch. So I think overall, I think it's a great proposal. It'll give us that proof point that we can always reference for new users that want to do training on Akash. Second, it establishes Akash as a brand in the AI community, which we don't have much as of now. We are known in crypto community, but from AI standpoint, we're sort of unknown to the most part, right? So with this model being published on Hugging Face, there is a referenceable, proven, proven aspect of Akash Network can be used for training. So there is enormous advantage of this training this model and funding this model training on Akash. But yes, let's get into the questions.
Thanks, Greg. And actually, I totally forgot. I should have said before we even get into questions, Logan, since you're also on the call, thanks for joining. Logan actually was the person that proposed this idea to me several weeks ago as we were thinking about testnet. And then I was like, why don't we first work on something that we can show in the testnet? And so we together worked on the benchmarking application that was used to benchmark all of our GPUs using Torchbench and Jupyter Notebook. So Logan, thanks so much for doing that work as well. I just wanted to give you a few minutes at least to talk about anything that you want to talk about with this proposal.
Yeah, so thanks, Greg and Anil. We just, for this proposal, it's a collaboration between Thumper AI, my startup, and Akash. And what we're trying to do, is build a Creative Commons zero licensed foundation model that's compatible with Stable Diffusion 1.5, open source software. And so we think it's a great, opportunity for us both to collaborate and create a unique model that's usable by a large range of open source software tools out there. We're really excited about this opportunity, and we've gotten some feedback already. We'd love to get some more feedback on that, about, for different questions that people have, and I just say we're really excited. So let me know if anybody has any specific questions or comments or thoughts on this. And we'll go from there.
Thanks, Logan. Yeah, so I was going to talk a little bit about this question from Derek, but since he's not on the call, I don't know if I want to hold everybody up doing that. Any other questions from anyone on this proposal before I hit the very last one on the list? Cool. Take that as a no. Logan and I will follow up with Derek in the comments on this. So if you want to take a look at those after we post them, take a look at those as well. And let's see what else is left. Doc IT Discord documentation part. I've actually not read this one. I don't know if anybody else has and can talk about this. Is the or if the person that wrote it is on the call. Yeah. So as I'm looking at this, it seems like this is somewhat in line with some of the efforts that have been going on, both from Piyush as well as from Scott on our team to build essentially a what we're calling Akash GPT or Cosmos GPT type of thing. Seems like it's somewhat similar to that, but I'm not entirely sure. But we can, I guess, if there's nobody that can talk about this, we can punt it to the next steering committee meeting. All right. Let's do that. Any others that anybody wants to talk about who's on the call and has written a proposal that we haven't touched? All right, we'll take that as a no. And then the very last thing we do is we just open it up again for any general questions from anyone on the call about this meeting, any of the SIGs, work groups, anything at all. Go ahead, Cheng.
Yeah, I think it's worth mentioning. Kariman and I were just going back and forth a little bit on the utility of AKT. It's a question that definitely pops up with a pretty fair degree of consistency. So just want to take every opportunity. I can't emphasize that the utility of AKT will always be front and center as far as any decision made in terms of multi-currency support. And as envisaged in AKT 2.0, and of course in all of our tokenomics design, having AKT front and center is always going to be one of the key pillars here. And so the take rate is one of the probably the primary component for ensuring that all usage on the network, regardless of currency, accretes back to create value for the Akash network, not just the community, but also ultimately token holders as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Cheng. And I hope that answers your question, Kareem. Cool. Yeah, I think that wraps it up for us. I know we're a little bit over time, but honestly, this is my favorite call of the month. And it's always nice to review everything that's going on, as well as see a whole bunch of people. So I really appreciate everybody taking time out of their day to come to these calls. And with that, I'll stop presenting and hand things back to Tyler.
Excellent. Thank you, Anil. Again, I appreciate everybody staying a little bit extra. Again, please look out for announcements over the next 24 hours as it pertains to the mainnet 6 upgrade. There is going to be documentation that will be distributed for folks on the validator side. Again, we're looking around 1:12, I believe, Eastern time tomorrow for that mainnet 6 upgrade. So folks, again, around maybe 2 hours ago will hopefully be online on the validator side to upgrade their infrastructure. And then again, there will be an announcement for folks that are providers when it is time to upgrade providers. Please don't upgrade providers before that announcement is made available. It'll be in Discord, it'll be on social, it'll be a number of places with documentation and instructions on how to upgrade. And then again, if you're going through the Praetor path, I know the Praetor path Praetor team has been updated on upgrade path, and they're working on the upgrade path right now for those that are using Praetor. But again, please do not upgrade infrastructure until you're told by members of the Overclock Core team. Again, much appreciate everybody's effort and participation in GPU testnet, participation in various support channels as we get ready for this mainnet 6 upgrade. It's been a true team effort to get us here and a true community effort. So again, please, everybody, mark your calendar, set some alarms for tomorrow midday so that we can reach consensus as quickly as possible on the validator side, and then start bringing GPUs onto the mainnet. But again, there will be a number of announcements coming soon. So if you have any questions in the meantime, please reach out on Discord to myself, Scott Carruthers, and some other folks in the community. But look out. And there will also be a live stream tomorrow where we will open it up to the community to watch the process of us going through the mainnet upgrade. So you'll see members of our core team potentially cursing or, just smiling and holding on while we reach consensus. But again, there will be some announcements on social media with a link to that YouTube live stream tomorrow, so you can kind of watch and experience the upgrade alongside us. Anyway, the notes and the recording will be available soon. Much appreciate everybody's participation today. Again, please feel free to get involved in discussions on GitHub, join a SIG, a working group, just continue to get involved and continue to push the Akash Network forward. I hope everyone has a great day, and we'll talk online, I'm sure. Mainnet 6 tomorrow.
Woohoo. Thanks, Adi.
All right, thank you all.
Stay safe,
Thanks,
everybody.
Eddie.
All right.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.